we are going to win this for our coaches. Like, we were so pumped about it, and like we were there, and then to kind of get all the way there and not win it again was that like big letdown, and like you could just feel the hurt in everybody. And like
I think the minute I stepped on a practice field for rugby, the calling happened.
An 8-year plan to be on the team, and I was in it within 2 years.
Don't wait until you are a pro to be a pro, right?
Like, I like doing something, stopping and learning from it.
Like, it just looked like it was a heavy hit.
To give up, it's not up.
That's the first time I played like professionally.
I'm making rugby money. How can I make money outside of it?
And there's two Scottish guys, and they said, "Oh, you're here for the movie."
Rugby is a sport where that's often coupled with actually having a good time.
He looked at me and he says, "You guys are awesome."
Grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby, grow rugby.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Grow Rugby. My name is GiftTime and this is a show where we speak to people about the opportunities that they have found, created, or taken advantage of via rugby. Man, what a heck of a weekend. We had the USA Rugby Club Sevens National Championships going on, and a big shout out to the Chicago Lions and Scion women for winning out the championships, being mentioned as the best teams in Rugby Sevens under USA Rugby's National Championship matrix style, because there's like a dozen championships. We got Rugby Town about to come up just now recently. So yeah, of course, we got to recognize all the tidbits. But guys, I want to say early on, please guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this show, whether you're on YouTube, whether it's through podcasts. Guys, it helps us to be able to push it around. We get to spread the message, and we continue bringing on amazing people to be able to be on the show. And we have an amazing person coming on today. This man has been in the game for over 10 years. He has been working it, and it led him to the highest position in Rugby Sevens right now, and the highest competition in Rugby Sevens. He's an Olympian. He is a Life University champion. He is a Pacific Rugby Premiership champion. He is a military man. He is a family man. We got the great, the awesome Cody Melphy on the show today. Olympian scrum half for USA Rugby Eagles. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Man, and this was a great conversation. I mean, we really, it was just very smooth. It was really great to be able to see the natural progression of what it takes to get to this position in as an athlete, as a rugby person, because I think sometimes there's so much confusion into what happens that we kind of underestimate how difficult and how much sacrifice and work is put to get to this position, to get to that highest level of rugby, that highest level. And Cody was awesome, super down to earth, absolutely the nicest guy. And of course, guys, if you guys didn't know, this is the TikTok king of USA Rugby, next to Ileana Mar, the TikTok queen of USA Rugby. And these two set the precedent going into the Olympics and coming out of it. So, man, it was really dope to talk to him. There's so much in here. But guys, I also tell you guys, check down below. We got some links for you. We got some great discounts. Rugby Outlet Mall. We're about to go out of our current shirts. We got the HBC Rugby for the culture, as well as our iconography shirts, rugby shirts, as we like to call them. Please check it out. And definitely, if you guys haven't gotten a chance to look back at some of our past episodes, last week we had Mick Feely. Before we had Maria Thomas of Trinidad and Tobago Rugby, and we got a really amazing depth of personalities, players, and personnel that we have going on. Definitely check them out if you haven't had a chance, but definitely take a listen to this one. So I'm not going to hold you guys off any longer. The great, the legend, the awesome Cody Melphy.
Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby, Grow Rugby.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Grow Rugby. My name is GiftTime Belu, and we got you know what? I don't know if VIP even works in the same way anymore. We're going. Hey. We got the O, the L, the Y, MPIAN, the man Cody Melphy doing it big for the USA Rugby Eagles, getting his debut on the Olympic stage in Tokyo. Cody, man, thank you so much for coming through.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate this so much. I just love jumping on these things and getting to share a little bit of our stories and kind of have a conversation. It's pretty cool.
You know, it's one of the, I think the most interesting components of it is being able to share the stories, because ironically in rugby, it's always this weird little component where we're big enough where there's a lot of global reach, but it's small enough where everything is still like one-on-one, if that makes sense. It still feels very down to earth. So like in one instance, if it was like track and field and people are like, oh man, that's track and field people, you're way and above. I can't connect over here. But then you go rugby and it's like, oh, you guys do the same thing, but for some reason I feel like I can talk. I don't feel it doesn't have the intimidation factor. And I think that's a big positive when it comes to being able to develop things in a larger capacity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It does feel like I can have more of a conversation with anybody. I mean, I'm approachable, so approach me.
Come talk to me. Understand this. Yes. And also, obviously, I forgot to mention. Not only is this man an Olympian, it's our second highest, I guess. No, would be the highest at this point. TikTok star. All right, because Aki was up there first, but then we got you now kicking in as the next level of the TikTok star. We're slowly moving up, man.
Hey, we have fun. That's all we like to do. So we have fun.
No, look, I always like to talk about where we meet people, and even speaking to that, or where we got to know people. And for you, ironically, I saw you a little bit at Life University because we had games that were over there whenever we were covering a lot of the women. But I think my biggest intro to you actually ironically came because of your social media. And you were one of the first elite rugby players that were actually using social media and TikTok early, and even Instagram. And I know particularly it was Instagram first, but you came in early with TikTok because I especially watch it for how people use social media. And you were dropping it was quick to 24K. Basically, when I saw it, I was like, I think I saw you at like 150, and the next thing I saw, I was like 24K. I was like, this man really going. Show your life.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I try to do is share my life and share the outside. You know, you got this rugby professional, but then you got all this stuff in the background that I like to do, and that's what TikTok came along and provided that like little avenue of just releasing who I was as a person to the community and to the public, which was cool.
Man, you know, and it goes back to what we say, you know, it's authenticity that changes the game, and that adds so much more depth into what it is that we do. So as you're able to keep digging into that, oh my goodness, like obviously people get just more and more attached to that.
Yeah. I mean, originally when like you said, I started on Instagram, and it was just like this avenue of like, you know, trying to inspire, you know, a generation and inspire whoever I could. And then TikTok came along, and I saw something from Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. And he was like, you got to jump on TikTok if you want to grow yourself as a person, as a businessman, and like my wife showed me that video, and she jumped on first, and she was like 10,000 followers within like 2 weeks. And I was like, whoa. And same thing. I hopped on there, had a video go to like 4 million in the first week. And like, the growth from it was crazy. 15,000, 20,000 people following within a week. I was like, whoa, okay, here we go. Let's keep growing.
That's wild.
Yeah, and it's done really well now, and it's awesome.
Man, and that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Like, I even heard the same thing, because Gary Vee, not only did he push, I mean, he was heavy pushing it. I remember it was literally, guys, get on TikTok, get on LinkedIn. Get on TikTok, get on LinkedIn. I'm acting like he still is not saying that. Get on TikTok, get on LinkedIn.
No, that's why I downloaded LinkedIn too. You say that, like that is literally. I downloaded TikTok and I downloaded LinkedIn because of that man.
No, look, It's real. I know for me it's a little tougher because I came in whenever it was just musically initially, and I didn't get a feel for it. But it's also like the test. Like I feel like sometimes it's just you need the examples and then it kicks in. And now I'm trying to do it, which is you can always say it's late, but I've always been late to the game. I'm here to try and let me see what we can do when we catch up. Let me see what happens here.
Yes.
So I always like to say it's important to know the origin story of every superhero. So, Cody, if you're ready for this question, how'd you get started in rugby?
I love this question because so many people assume that because you're on the professional level, you got started so young. And there's so many of us who got started on later days in our life. And I got started when I was 18, actually. So I had this buddy, Jesus Flores, and he was really well known in the rugby community before he passed. But he was talking about rugby and just in the school hallway. And I was like, I want to go out for this. I want to try it out. And he's making a team. And so the man, got all the football players, all the track stars. I came from soccer background and wrestling. And we just went out and we started crushing the season. And we had so much fun. Like we two head coaches, Charlie Riley and Ethan Punier, both, and Ethan's very well known in the rugby world too. And both of them just made the culture of rugby just so fun that nobody wanted to give it up at that point. So I just kept playing. I actually went to college for soccer, and I dropped out to continue playing rugby at Glendale. And it just kind of grew from there. So,
dude,
yeah, crazy.
Dude, that's tight. Like it's very interesting. I've always been a big. It's been an interesting observation that I've seen that whenever people start getting playing rugby, once you get into the rhythm of the sport, it's very difficult for people to be like, I don't really care for this. I don't really like it. But I like the key that you had put that your coach Ethan, right?
Yeah, Ethan and Charlie,
like that they had created an environment that was attractive, that made the rugby that much more attractive on it. Like for you, like what was it that they were doing specifically that made it so engaging?
So Ethan was from South Africa, so he's just like born around rugby. He knows everything about rugby.
Of course,
and we got Jesus, who had played like a year and a half, so he was like barely knew anything. He was a scrum half though, so he had to know a little bit more. And we had this guy Charlie, who's just an older man, played back in the 80s, very old school. And the first practice we show up and he just like throws the ball out and he's like, all right, play. And we're just like, and we're like, whoa, what? And he's like every time we do something wrong, he's like, no, you can only pass backwards. And we're like, okay, we can only pass backwards. And like, it's in Colorado, so it's like a little bit of snow on the ground. It's muddy.
Right.
Like, we're just out there tackling each other, like, and just having fun. And then every practice kind of just entailed that. It was just like a whole lot of fun. We didn't know what we were doing. It was two people who knew what they were doing on the team. Everybody else was trying to figure it out.
Hey, learn by fire.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were just athletic. So like we were just some of the best athletic players at our school. And we were going out and we were just showing teams up 80-0, and we were just like pounding teams. And we were just pounding teams, and that's what made it fun too. We were just like, okay, we're good.
It helps a little bit. It helps.
Yeah.
Oh, we winning? Oh, we winning. Oh, let's see how many wins we can really pull off on.
Yeah. It was like a power team.
Y'all were just cheat coding. This is the ultimate like mash button playing. This is like, I don't know what's going on, but we just good. So just keep hitting this.
It's like a bunch of seniors. We're 18 years old. We got 2 months of school left. We're graduating. We're just like trying to have fun.
So you're going in that concept, right? But that you're talking about, that's the last coming at the tail end. So for you having a scholarship in soccer, and you ended up going where for soccer originally?
So I went to Metro State in Colorado, the D2 school in Denver.
So you're looking at that. You have to, everybody aims for that. We getting in and having the full, partial, whatever. School is paying for me to be here in some way, shape, or form. For you, what was it that made you go, you know what? I need to go back to rugby, because this was something that was similar with Cheta Emba that I saw, and I'm trying to understand this on the full factor. So for you, what was it that like was inkling in the back of your head that was like, you know what, I need to get back to whooping up on people again?
So originally, like, my dad had me like multi-sport everything, and he's like, you're gonna become a pro baseball player. And like my freshman year, I quit baseball, and he was like, you just threw away millions. I was like, Dad, I'm going to be a pro soccer player. Like, my destiny, I will be a pro soccer player. So, like, D2 freshman Cody, like, most minutes on the team, you know, we go to Final Four and nationals, like, we do well. And I'm just, like, kind of in this groove. And there was just this falling out with soccer where it just kind of became the sport where I just didn't love it anymore. And I had this experience with my coach that I got fouled in the box once. And I didn't go down. I kind of just I took it, and like we didn't get the foul called. And he was like, "You better go down the next time you put like that in the box." And it was like this like moment of reckoning. And then like we're like getting ready for the next season come around. I was like, I just don't think I can. I don't feel it anymore. So I I had a conversation with the coach and told him, I was like, I'm done. Like I just can't play this anymore. And like at the time I was still playing a little bit of rugby, but not a lot. And then I hit up Ethan, and I actually ended up moving in with Ethan. A little bit older than me. He's 2 years older than me. So I moved in with him, and everything was rugby at that point. Like I just became like a rugby hoe pretty much. I was playing
I started it up for rugby, you know.
I was playing on every team. I was studying rugby. We were watching like the World Series, every single tournament there was. We'd stay up until 2 a.m. playing. And then we had the rugby like World Cup 15 on Xbox. We always played like
that game was dope.
That
game was awesome.
Yeah, and then we started a rugby team. Like we started a high school rugby team. So it was like I was coaching, I was playing, I was learning, I was watching, I was doing everything I could. And it just became like my life. Like rugby, literally, I went to work and then rugby.
Yo, but I love that because it takes you through the ringer, takes you through the laundry of it. Like at that point, now you're just absorbing it. Whenever they always say like you become your greatest whenever you become obsessed with trying to be great in something. You know, obviously some people can be like, no, you need to diversify. But no, in reality, it's just like I'm just diversifying how I'm learning, but it is in this one subject particularly.
Yeah.
For you, you know, you mentioned how much of a multi-sport athlete. Is that something that was already indicative within your family that you guys were an athletic family? Or was it something that your dad was like, look, I see my boy, he's going to be an absolute professional athlete, starting with baseball, and then we'll see what goes from that.
No, athletics has always been a part of the family, and my dad actually was a world-class trampolinist. He had a chance to go to the Olympics, and I'm just missing out. So he's actually really, world-renowned, not Olympus, but trampolinist.
Yeah.
And so from like the age we were born, I was playing soccer at 3, baseball, everything. I played soccer, baseball, wrestling, basketball. I golfed. I played tennis. Every single thing that they could have me in, and I wanted it too. I was that one kid who was like played video games and played sports. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't care about school. I didn't care about any of this stuff. I just wanted to play sports. I just want to play video games when I couldn't play sports.
It's real. Look, this is. Sometimes I tell people, I'm like, look. There's always people who are like, oh, man, I wish I grew up in so-and-so different era. But in all honesty, for me, I'm just like, this era that we're in right now where all these factors like video games and sports and tech stuff can be a prominent and financially beneficial, but mainly at least credibly acceptable way of doing things as opposed to, oh, you're playing so many video games? Yo, you're lazy. You're not doing anything with your life.
Yeah.
Yo, you're in sports? No, man, you're not ever going to be professional. You got to do it. Like, I love the fact that you basically were building yourself for this last 10 years.
I guess so.
No, that's awesome. But do you feel like that family dynamic of athleticism helped with how you were studying for rugby whenever you kind of jumped all the way in?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much just diverged in every sport that I played growing up. So it was like, if you're going to play the sport, then you need to practice. You need to you need to show up to practice on time. You need to show up to games. You need to put in the extra hours, the extra minutes. Like, you know, I was always around the neighborhood playing with my friends and playing with people around the neighborhood. Like, had my soccer ball at my feet all the time. It was like one of those things. So you know, now that you bring it up, it probably was something I was like, okay, yeah, we got to put our whole mind to it, and we got to go for it. And that's what I did. I just loved it so much, to be honest. It was easy to do. It's all I wanted to do. I just loved it.
Nice.
Yeah.
For you then, you know, you get this moment, and it's very rare, especially after college. Like, and you know, bear with me, but you know, whenever you're in college, you're over at Metro State, and then you end up working and living with Ethan. In that process and time, like, what was the family dynamic that went into it? Because I know for me, when I started playing rugby, and I started playing rugby after college, but I found out about it during it. My family was always really like iffy on it because nobody really knows much about this sport. And then, of course, if it's something that can be injurious, or we're Nigerian, so if it's not immediately profitable, you know, it's like, well, what is it that you are doing? Like, what is wrong with you? You know, it's like, but you end up having to prove it over time. For you, because you already had this, what a lot of people would consider the major goal of working in soccer and actually being in the collegiate athletic facility. How was your family taking it that you started moving into rugby?
Yeah, so when I first started rugby, take it back just a little bit, at 18, I wasn't allowed to play football growing up. So that was the one sport, like, I didn't name that I played, because my dad didn't want me playing that. He taught first aid concussion classes growing up, and
he was early to the game on CTE.
Yeah, so he was like, you know, you can't play this. You can't play football. It's the only sport you can't play. So I turned 18 and I joined rugby, and I came home and told my dad, hey, I got a game this weekend, Dad. He's like, a game? I said, yeah, a rugby game. He goes, what the? And I was like, yeah, just come. And he showed up, and, you know, I scored. I don't know how many tries I scored. I scored a bunch of tries. And after
Let's go. Don't be humble about it, Cody. Let him know. I scored 16 tries in the game.
My dad. He came up to me after that. He's like, I should have had you in football this whole time. And he was so about it. So, like, moving on, they've always been like a big support about that. So,
nice.
You know, when I kind of turned down, like, I had worked so hard for this, like, freshman, you know, soccer, you know, what I was doing at Metro State, I worked so hard for that. Right. And when I stopped playing soccer, and then I did another year of school before I dropped out of school. And it was a very strict, like, you need to, you know, my parents were like, you need to be going to school. You need to get your education. You need to, you know, it was like, they were still supported me because I was playing semi-pro at Glendale, and they understood, like, what rugby was. But, you know, it was that, like, you know, this isn't going to take you anywhere. You need this education. You need to focus on, like, getting a real job. You need to, you know, set your future up, you know, buy a house, like, settle down, those type of things. And it was a huge conversation. And, you know, slowly I started getting, like, onto better and better teams and more recognition and stuff like that. And, like, the support has always still been there. Like, they'd come to my games, they'd still support me, they'd love watching me, they'd cheer me on, all that stuff. But there's still that, like, background, like, you know, how are you going to support yourself? So, you know, I'm working a full-time job, playing rugby at night, you know, so that's how I support myself. And then I get to do what I want to do. And it was this, like, you know, you need to go back to school. You need to, you know, do these little things and it was always chirping, you know, and so when the Life University opportunity came around, that was just amazing. And it just kind of fell into place, and they were ecstatic about it. And, you know, I got to explain to them, it's like one of the top rugby schools, and I get some education, and they were ecstatic about it. So, like, that kind of just falling into place kind of put everything at ease, and then just became this, like, momentum shift of, like, me moving into, like, where I needed to go and what got me here.
Yo, everything works in its own reason, you know. It's it's that slow, steady step up, and I think sometimes it gets lost in the factor of how much of a process it is to get to those levels where it makes sense to the masses, and all you have is just yourself to, in better or worse, you have yourself and your own self motivation that has to be able to keep carrying you forward over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, dude,
Yeah.
I love that.
I've had good support all the way along the way too, because I mean, my wife now, who I met when I was 19, like she's always pushed me into all these opportunities, and like Life University was something I didn't know if I was going to take or not, and she was like, "You gotta go," and like it's always like that support system behind that has really pushed me into like kind of becoming the person I am now. And like you said, the trusting the process, and like you don't really know the process. You never know, like all of us athletes on this team, like we all have different stories. We all have different processes, and all you guys see and what the fans see is us running out on the field and performing. You know, like you don't see anything. Like, to be honest, like there's so much. Like, and I'm only telling you 1% of 1%. You know.
We're gonna pull into. We're gonna try and get at least 15% before this is over. But but I think that's real. Like I was talking to Sarah Saul about it, and it was an aspect that she always talked about a lot, in the factor of like, hey, I've seen what they do behind the scenes. Like, I know the work that goes in. So as much as everybody is, you know, being critical, and of course, criticism and fandom, they go hand in hand, you know, so it's part of the expectation of the sport. But it's like, I know what the things that people are critical of are often critical out of sheer ignorance, because a lot of what you guys think is going on doesn't really exist, and what you don't realize is happening is probably the heaviest components of it that's going through, whether it's the personal battles, the mental battles, financial battles, social battles. You know, it's a lot of things that go in. And look, even doing this media stuff has allowed me to step back a lot more behind the scenes in a lot of aspects, where you become a little bit more empathetic to what's going on, because now you understand the process, and you're just like, guys, like, one, it's probably not as nefarious as you guys believe it to be, and it's also not as noble as you guys believe it to be. It's ironically very, very difficultly simple. Like it's a weird, it's a paradox, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
You know, so, you know, you've had the chance to be able to play on these levels. Add to that your militariness. So whenever you were going between living with Ethan, starting to play for Glendale, and then Life University, right? You joined the military in that. No, you joined the military after Life University, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the time whenever you were there, at what point in time did you start to feel like, yo, I get this sport. Like, I get it on the field. I don't just love it. I get it from a field perspective.
Well, with all the time that I spent with Ethan, like, to be honest, I asked him question after question after question. Like, I was the question guy, and then I get around even more experienced people, and I was question guy, like Andre Snyman, you know, famous Springbok. Like, I asked that dude every single question I could when he was my coach, you know, and, you know, break down rules, like law book stuff. I was like, well, can't we just, like, I know the rule says this, but couldn't we do this to get around the rule? And like, I was like trying to break everything down. And so it really kind of just, it was a slow process to that realization that I did have what it took. And I always wanted, you always want something, you know, you always like dream of something. Like, since 2012, I've dreamed of being on this team. Like, I've wanted to be on this team. I've like said, I'm going to be on this team, but you know, you don't really understand how you're going to get there until you start doing it and you start getting on along with that process. And so the realization that like I was, you know, capable was probably my senior year at Life. Was just like, you know, I was comfortable. I knew that I was good. We were going to a season where, like, you know, we have a good team too, and it was just like I had good players and good support system around.
I'm sorry, time out. Hold on. Did you just say that you had a season where you guys were good? I'm sorry, Cody. Can you tell me the season that you guys weren't good? I would like to look at this in the books.
Well, you know, no matter how good you are, like this could be like the All Blacks could probably say this to you too. No matter how good you are or think you are, like you still have that that pressure that you're like, okay, we need to go show how good we are now. Like we need to prove how good we are. Like we have all the pressure on us, you know. These schools that are coming to play us that have never beat us before have no pressure. It's us to go show that like we are the best, and
Right.
to show them why we're the best. And so, yeah, that's all that is. Like, yeah, you know, life is one of the best schools, and I'll always back life. Life is you know, my baby.
Hey, yo, respect. Hey, look, I am not a big fan of the city of Atlanta, but Marietta and a lot of aspects of Atlanta has been very beneficial in the development of my rugby career, my rugby media career in a lot of instances. Life University, very specifically, shout out to Rosalind specifically on that, Rosalind Shaw, because she's been
awesome.
very key. But you know, I remember even actually, I think this was a game. I think whenever you guys were playing Lindenwood, I'm literally jumping forward because I just know this one because I had it on film. But one of the million times, I think this was like 2016, and you guys had it was when you guys did that wildly crazy dummy off underneath the Harley Wheeler. That was you were there that year. That was 2016. That was your last year, correct? Yeah. And you guys ended up beating, I think, Lindenwood by, it wasn't by very much. It was a close game. It was actually a really entertaining game. But I always remember that, one, because I was trying to do a halftime show at that point. So, like, I was trying to do stuff there. But it always just showed the dynamic of, like, the creativity that Life University constantly had in their training. And that just leads me to my next question. You know, you got to lead it right. That's a journalistic way. But, you know, you had this epic training with Glendale, and Glendale has been known for being WPL, D1, the semi-pro back in the day. Like it's a training hub, all right, for Eagles and then some. And then you go to Life University. For you, what was it that did you see a difference in the type of training, or did you feel like there was one that you could feel out that you felt a little bit more attached to that helped you in your development?
Yeah, so at Glendale, it's a men's program, and I was a 19-year-old boy.
Right.
And so you know, and I was playing behind Eagles, like I had Eagles everywhere in front of me. Like the whole starting lineup at Glendale was Eagles, you know, and the positions I wanted to play was, you know, could have been best in were fly half, you know, behind Nesse and Atamalifa, you know, and,
right.
And so it's like so many Eagles across the board. So I was in the like a very like back burner, like wing, fullback position where like maybe a center position here or there. And I was training around all these men, so I was like, you know, I was becoming this man who was like, you know, backs and forwards when you're tackling sessions, like you're in that.
Yeah.
Like, you're putting your head in, and that, you know, I got this like this badass, like I'm putting my head into anything, I can tackle anybody. I was like, you know,
I'm gonna run through this wall, baby. You guys can't do nothing to me.
Yeah, pretty much. I had to become this guy who was like not afraid of nothing. And so like that was the big jump there. And then when I got to Life, it became more of like I could hone in on my skills and what I was good at and what I wanted to what I could bring to the team from a bigger perspective. And then kind of just like I was in a full-time environment at Life too. So, you know, you go to school, you play rugby, and you're playing rugby multiple times a day. And then outside of that, you know, we're all rugby bros, you know, hanging out at the dorms and stuff. Like we're playing rugby some more too. Like that's all we wanted to do. So that full-time environment is like, it's definitely key in development, is any type of full-time environment, because the men's level you kind of just do 2 or 3 nights a week, maybe 4. That full-time environment really kind of changes things, to be honest.
Like because I mean, even though with Glendale it was a part-time on field, but I mean, if you're having these huge study sessions on a daily outside of work and then field play, I mean, how different is that from what you guys would already be doing at Life?
So it was just more specific at Life. Like, you know, we're studying more of ourselves and more of the teams we were playing, where at Glendale is more like a broader, like I'm studying rugby. Right. And I mean, even at Glendale, to be honest, like it wasn't the only team I played on at Glendale. Like I was playing for Queen City. I mean, we had Wednesday night sevens during the summer, and I was playing for Littleton. There were so many teams that those nights you're like supposed to get 3 or 4 games, and me and Jesus would get in like 8 or 9 games.
Oh,
so
nice.
We were just, like popping on any team that needed somebody. We were just popping in. Like those were like it kind of was a full-time environment, but because I made it that, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday was Glendale practice, Tuesday, Thursday was Queen City, and then I coached 4 days in between. It was like,
nice.
It was like, it was a full-time environment in itself, but it wasn't like I couldn't just focus on it. It wasn't the only thing I was doing. I had a lot of other stuff going on, like especially like work,
Logistically not full, logistically unfull, but spiritually very full.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go. We got to put some brands to it. All right, we're changing the game out here, Cody. Oh, but I love that factor, and especially as people understand this process of lifting, and the criticism has always been, oh man, how are we developing as a country in rugby and how we move up? It's like, hey guys, what is it that you're willing to invest inside of it? And it's been one aspect that's been interesting for me. So I'm going to kind of skip forward because I could literally break this down incrementally, but I want to really get to the biggest meats and potatoes of this. And once you get into this international level. So for you get out from Life University. All right. You've built up your name over at Life. It's almost impossible not to have developed some level of a name. And you were a pretty dominant player during that time, 15s and 7s at Life. So whenever you graduated, did the Eagles immediately try and come pick you up and say like, hey, Cody, come here, let's go to the Olympic training environment? Or was there a process? Because again, you joined the military in between there, and I'll ask about that a little bit, but you joined the military in between. So what was that process of you getting from graduate and obsessive student to now becoming a obsessive high performance student?
So there was no approach while I was at college. So I did go to U23 15s camp and then went to Australia, played 3 games. And I did get approached from them about playing 15s. And I was like, I just kind of love 7s. And like, look, you have a future in 15s. And that's kind of what they told me.
Yeah.
7s was kind of the thing that I love. And then you have the pin mutual, the CRCs, which is like the last thing you do as a college player.
Right.
And so like that led me right into summer 7s with the Denver Barbarians. And so at this time I hadn't been approached about anything. I didn't know anything. And so we played the whole summer men's nationals. We lost at the final play of the match when we kicked the ball away and it just didn't go our way. We got scored on, and
oh man, and it hurts. I can feel the pain in your eye on that, because it's like, God, if we had just kept it, all we need to do is just keep it. Does that play in your mind sometimes where you're just like, guys, just hold on to it?
I think it's more so just like that feeling of you could have had something that you didn't have. Yeah. It's not really like one player or another. It's just like that feeling of like you could have
saw that champion. The championship was sitting there right in your eyes, and it just felt like it just made it right out of reach.
The worst part about it was like our coaches had been there like 10 or 11 times, have been in finals and never won it. And so we're like, we are going to win this for our coaches. Like we were so pumped about it, and like we were there, and then to kind of get all the way there and not win it again was that like big letdown, and like you could just feel the hurt in everybody. And like there's some players there too. Like I had just joined the team, so it's a little bit different for me, but some people 5 or 6 year veterans on the team, and Maximo Diacheval, he's like been there for 9 years, like hasn't won a championship yet, and you're like, dang man, you just wish for like you could have finished the game.
You wanted that movie, you wanted that cinematic finish. It was cinematic finish, and you ended up getting Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, we didn't get the cinematic finish. Kansas City did. So
yeah. Does that hurt a little bit more because it's an internal like rival within your division as well too?
I don't think it really didn't hurt as much because Kansas City and Utah were in the Final Four, and we're like three teams from our division or like our conference were in the Final Four. Like that's pretty awesome for our conference. Right. And that just shows how good we are. And so personally for me it didn't hurt, maybe for other guys because we played Kansas City like 12 times a summer.
It's funny. I call that the Southeastern Rugby, the Southeastern Conference mentality, look, if it's not me, at least let it be the people that we played against. Let one of us at least win. I prefer one, let others, and then everybody outside of this, you guys can go screw yourselves, all right? But keep it in division. Keep it.
Yeah. That's kind of how it felt, to be honest, for me. So, anyways, so that tournament ended, and we're in the airport, and I'm chilling with Kayvon and some of the other guys on the team, and Kayvon's on Twitter, which I don't have a Twitter. I still don't have a Twitter. I didn't have one at the time, and he's like, "Oh, Mike Friday just tweeted you," because Mike Friday was there, and I was like, shut up. And he's like, no, he just tweeted, and he like read the tweet. He's like, man of the tournament, in my opinion, Cody Melphy. And I was like, dude, shut the hell up. Like, get out of here. Like, I didn't believe him. And he's like, no, look. And he showed me it. And then I knew who Mike Friday was. I was like, yes. So I was like, at this point, I'm like, holy cow. So I'm like calling my wife. I'm like, Peyton, Mike Friday just shouted me out, man. Like, he said I was the man of the tournament. And called my mom. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And, from that moment, the next tournament 2 weeks later is Rugby Rugby Town. And I still hadn't heard anything from Mike. And so at Rugby Town, Chris Brown, who is the women's head coach, but he was our assistant head coach back then. He was at Rugby Town.
You really only work with the best, don't you? Like you have had a legit pleasure of being able to work with it. That is a blessing in the fullest.
It is. It absolutely is. I'm surrounded. That's what I'm saying. That full-time environment, being out here in a full-time environment for the last 4 years has made me a better player than I could have ever imagined being on a men's team or doing it on my own. It has been a blessing. So we go into this Rugby Town, Rugby Rugby Town, and same thing. I just had a killer tournament, same thing, and Brownie's like, man of the tournament, Cody Melphy. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So back-to-back man of the tournaments between the head coach and the assistant coach. And Brownie, I guess, was my spokesperson because he got me out to an incubation camp, which when I first got invited, I was like, sweet, I'm going to be with all the guys I've been looking up to for 6 years. I'm going to be with Maka Nufe, Falau Niua, Perry Baker. I can't wait. Ben Pinkelman. I was like, this is going to be absolutely amazing. And I get to this incubation camp, and it's a crossover athlete camp.
Oh, and, wait, what?
yeah. And so we were there, Joe Schroeder was there, and he was a cheerleader, and we had track stars and we had football stars, and it was just a crossover. It ended up being a camp for crossover athletes that they were trying to find athletes. And I was and it was just me, Chris Matina, Fatala Talpusi, I think, and then maybe one other that were rugby players.
Clearly, you guys still made it up to the next level.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. The rugby players that were there, we were okay, what is going on? Balls getting dropped every pass, people not knowing how to pass. We were doing passing drills, and I was just whoa, I really thought I was coming into a USA Rugby camp. I really believed I was, and and we weren't. And I'm judging Joe. I'm he's a cheerleader. I'm dude, we gotta. I'm at my first USA Rugby camp, and I'm playing with a cheerleader, man. And soon to find out, he's an amazing rugby player.
Okay, you say playing with a cheerleader, but we forget the fact it's a 6'8", 6'9" cheerleader over here.
Yeah. Well, that didn't matter to me. I was he's a cheerleader. I didn't know his background. I didn't know who he was. I thought he never played rugby before.
Oh my God, that's too funny. But you know what? That it makes it so kind of epically beautiful, because it's it's finding the warriors through battle, and it's just wait, I thought I'm already in the top warrior. Who are you guys? But then you end up finding oh, we got a lot more in common going on here. Yeah. This actually ended up working. But but you're saying
we had this track star too who was out there, and he's faster than Carlin Isles, and we're wow. Hey, okay, let's go. He's out the whole time we're there. He's out with a hamstring injury. And
the ender of all speedster. I swear the hamstring is limited.
Yeah, and then he couldn't even pass. He didn't know anything about rugby. He didn't know you had to pass the ball backwards. There's offside line, any of that. So we're
right.
Okay, so. But they chose their favorite players, which I know me, Joe, Chris, Kala. I don't remember who else was there. I think there was a few more that I got invited 2 weeks later to another camp.
Okay.
And this was a real camp. And this is where, we were in with the boys. We were in with the big boys, and we were out there, and I'm like, I'm sweating bullets, like you don't know how it feels. Like, until you do this, I promise you don't know how it feels when you are the fresh meat on. And you're walking in there and you see all these pros and all these guys who you've looked up to, and you're in the same training grounds as them. Like, you're about to go compete against them, and play and practice with them.
Was it one of those situations where you almost get like a little bit of that imposter syndrome? Because at that moment, for whatever it's worth, at a certain level, you guys are it's no longer the guys above you, but at some level, you guys are equitable, even though it's a camp, but you guys are on the same level. This is one-on-one, I prove yourself, etc.
So what I was going to say is that you feel this seniority, and you feel this, they are the bees. Danny Barrett, when you walk into a practice with him, he's all there. He's going to crush you if he has a chance to crush you. And so
right.
You have this feeling of wow, okay, I did make it, but there still is that little bit of okay, these are the guys, let me try to learn everything I can from these guys. Let me try to do what I can to help these guys, support these guys, and prove myself to these guys that I belong here. But yeah, the nerves and the walking that first week was crazy. I can't even explain the feeling of that.
Dude, I can only imagine, only because of it feels like it's multi-tiered. It's one, knowing that you are now in that arena, of course, that there's always that feeling. Two, knowing who they are. And then I feel like the third one that really has to hit is trying not to be a fanboy, because you know them so well, because you've watched them and you've seen this development over time. But you also have to try and make sure that you want to be respected and also respecting as a teammate. So it's not like, oh my God, Danny, oh my God, Perry, what the heck? You're just no, it's cool. We out here, we're trying to do some good rugby. It's fun. Yeah. And in your mind, you're just like, oh my God.
Oh, that was me the whole time. I mean, I've been a fanboy since in 2012. I watched every single Sevens series. I went to every single Las Vegas Sevens tournament. I was like, but you are out there, and they're just another player. At the point where when you get out there, they're another player. Beyond that, outside of the field, when I went on my first tour, I was a fanboy. I was like, oh, Maka, let's get a picture. I'm trying to get man, let's I'm staying with Danny Barrett my first tour. I was like, whoa, but when you're at that, when you get to that level, you kind of become this, you are an equal in every aspect of the game. No matter how good someone is, you have to see everybody on the team as equal. So at the end of this camp is when I finally kind of got pulled into the office at the end of the camp, and they were like, hey, this is what we can offer you. And they offered me residency and a certain amount of money. And for me at the time, I was engaged, and, I was living in Colorado, and, I was like, hey, can you have housing for my wife? And they're like, no, she can't come along. So all the decisions from, that I could make in that moment was no, you can't take this opportunity, which was kind of this crazy thing. I was telling myself I can't take the opportunity. And I told them that. I was like, look, I just can't do this. This is just the amount of money that you're offering me and housing. I already did school for the last 2.5 years away from my girlfriend. I can't do that again to her, which I have a great relationship with. It was all these decisions that, went up to that. And so what they offered me is to fly me in for camps.
Nice. And
that's kind of where it was. And we're going to have you as this remote player who will fly in for camps. If you do well enough, we'll take you on tour type. And I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. And so that was my first welcome into the team.
Nice. You talked about how much of a development it was for you to, once you got into the elite camp, and in terms of how you grew as a player, especially under the full time of sort. There's been a lot said about how tough Mike Friday's camps are in terms of conditioning and strength training. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what it is that you guys would do? Because I always sometimes wonder why there isn't some replication at other lower levels underneath it
so
if it's effective.
The way that I look at it is it's so hard for these men's teams to replicate the training regimen that we do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we're in the morning in the gym, we're doing 2 training sessions a day. You know, we got recovery, and we're doing this every single day. And like when high performance camps come around, which is the camp before we go on tour, you know, we're doing that for 6 days. And then our training sessions become an hour and a half instead of an hour. We're going from like 7 a.m. till 6:30 p.m. Like some of our days are like we're ending at 7 p.m. I'm getting home because we did like 2.5 hours of film after our day was over.
Nice.
Like, so it's this full-time environment that we're trained on. So like all the athletes that are in who full-time athletes, like our bodies are trained on this. Like we're used to it. We're used to the Friday fitness that we got going on. We're so used to everything. And then it gets ramped up even more in the HP camp because they're trying to like, one, you know, figure you out and like trying to see if you're good enough and you're willing enough to go that extra mile. And two, just to push you beyond your limits. And so it gets ramped up even more. So when you find these, you know, athletes in and people are coming in, you know, 4 or 5 athletes, it's hard for them to, one, get into a regular training week, 2, for that high performance week where everything's ramped up. And so I think that's why you kind of get this perspective of like, it's so hard, which it is. It's like, you know, there's days that we are crawling off the field and we're like, why are, you know, if I didn't love this sport,
why am I dealing with it like this? Right. This is life for me.
My body,
I breathe this.
all of us know, like our bodies in like 15 years will not be working like they are now. Like we didn't love this sport as much as we do, and we're like so like gifted with the ability to go represent Team USA on like a larger scale. Like we couldn't sustain something like this. Like. So I think that's where kind of that vision about that, or that, you know, that wording of like, it's so hard, because it is, but it is so much harder when you're this athlete that hasn't been training. Like, of course, everybody's doing their gym, everybody's doing their training sessions, you know, but it's just not the same. It's just not, it's not what we're doing. You know,
it's the reason you're pushing a different level, because of the fact that now you've raised the body and the standards and the requirements to this next level. And once you've set that standard, then you're just working within the range of that, as opposed to starting back like, oh, we went back down to a club and we got to go back all the way up to here. And that recharge back up is where the difficulty truly comes out of.
Yep. And that's kind of the key difference.
So, all right. So kind of starting to close this a little bit. You know, want to go into the Olympics, because I could talk to you all day on this, and I got mad questions. But I'm gonna give you some freedom. But you going into Tokyo, you know, you went in with a very unique situation. Obviously, it went in initially as an alternative, came off with Ben Pinkelman's injury, and you got kind of pushed into the roster. For you, in that moment, not even let's kind of back it up. What was it? What was the feeling and process like just getting selected as an alternative?
So I actually wasn't selected as an alternative. So
okay. So
I didn't make anything on the team, alternate or anything. I wasn't on the. I was selected, not selected.
Okay, so in that feeling there, so you've done all the high performance, you did the training, and you don't make the final 12, 14, if you may, onto that. What was that feeling like in that moment? Because that's 4 years of your time that you've been working into this.
Yeah, it for me, it was 4. For some of the other guys, it's been 5 since 2016. It was a lot of, like, at first it was like just sadness, you know. It was like, holy cow, like, you know, I worked so hard for this. I really thought I was in a good position. Like, I think that I could have given to the team, you know. I felt like, you know, I could have been a player that helped the team, and that could have, you know, pushed us into those medal rounds. And then it's like a little bit of anger, like, you know, comes in the next day, and you're like, dang, you know, like, I can't believe I didn't get selected. And then it's this, like, just this realization that, you know what, you're a little bit younger, you've got more years ahead of you. Now is your time to support the team and make sure that this team that did get selected, because they got selected for a reason. You know, you didn't get selected for a reason. You need to support these guys and make sure that they do go win that gold, and kind of be that player. And I kind of took a step back on that like second, third day because we had a week and a half off after selections. Like they knew.
Oh wow.
They knew we needed time off.
Right.
So
I mean, that's a lot of emotions and physical exhaustion that has to just come out from that, knowledge or not.
Yeah. So I was just like, took the step back. I was like, you know, what would I want if I was those players? Right. And I was like, I would want someone who came in with energy, who was positive, who supported us, who was pushing us and believed in us. And so I was like, you know what? That's what I have to do. And that's what I need to bring to training. And that's where I was, you know, that I got over everything else. And a lot of me didn't want to train, you know. I was like, I don't want to, you know, screw this. I'm done. Like, I'm done for the summer. Like, I'm on break. But then, like, once those emotions and everything came around, like, I wouldn't want somebody to do that either. So, like, you know, got back into training. And I started training even harder because I was like, you know what, 2024 is going to be my year. And I'm going to be one of the more senior guys. And I'm going to lead this team. You know, I'm going to be one of those main guys who can bring this team to Olympic, you know, finals, you know, in 2024. So that's where it all turned into that at that moment.
Did you have a conversation with your dad on that? Because like you talked about earlier, like with his trampolining, how close he was to being able to make the Olympics and kind of having a little bit of that parallel with that. Did you help with that?
I didn't have any conversations specific like that, but I did have conversations with all my loved ones, you know, close friends. I was like, hey, you know, like, I didn't make it, but, you know, that's okay. And, you know, some tears were dropped, but, you know.
It's real.
It was just, it was.
This is sports. It's the one place where the tears really can go without judgment, if, you know, whatever people want to say on that one. But
so I had those conversations, you know, and you know, people don't know what to say. Like, that's the thing. Like,
true.
I didn't know what I wanted to hear. I just had to let them know that it was going to be okay.
Right. It's also not exactly the most relatable, you know, feeling. Hey guys, you know, I unfortunately wasn't able to be considered for the greatest sporting event in the history of the world. You know, can you guys give me how you feel in your similar situation? Like, you don't have that, but it's dope that you got at least have the sounding board to be able to at least bounce it off.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it came to at that point. And I was good. You know, I was. You know, you always have that deep down inside where you're like, dang, I just wish I was going. But, like, when we got back to training that next week and lifts and everything, I was good. I was ready to go. I'm going to be the number one fan for this 15 guys who are going on to Tokyo. I'm going to be the number one guy there. So,
yo, that's awesome. So, obviously, you start to get the change. And, you know, we hear, unfortunately, Ben Pinkelman, his finger, and you know, it's now he's unable to make it onto the roster. And you get the call. It was his back. Oh, I thought it was his finger. Like, I thought it was I'm telling you, reports do not come out accurately. So
so he hurt his back actually quite a while ago. And so so
it was a re-injury.
Yeah. No, he's already had one back surgery. He re-hurt his back, and he hadn't been training. And he played in one of the games for Quest for Gold. And he's one of the best players on our team. Like, he's
a senior player. Like, he's been amazing for almost half a decade now.
Yeah, and he changes the dynamic of games and everything. So he played in one of the games to Quest for Gold, and he was getting some shots for like painkilling and stuff like that, to, you know, so he could push on to the Olympics. And so he got selected for that reason. You know, we needed him in the squad, and you know, he came back, and after getting those shots, they just didn't work, and he, you know, brought the team together, and he himself pulled out and said, you know, I just can't do this. Like, I'm just not, like, he, you know, told us how he's feeling and everything. It just wasn't fit to play. And so
that's tough.
And I didn't even know that I was going to, he's a forward, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a halfback.
Yeah, halfback.
When you're seeing that, all I'm doing is feeling, you know, sadness for him, because I have the same feeling. I didn't make the team, and I'm like, oh man, I feel so bad. You know, you did make the team, you can't play.
Right.
You know? So, and then you're thinking like, okay, you know, it's not my position, you know, forward's going in there, you know? Right. So like 0% of me thought that I was the man who was coming into the squad at that point. And so I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just trying to support him and you know, his feelings and make him feel a little bit better.
That's real. And that's good, because you know, it's your team. Again, it goes back to it's your teammate. Like, you've been rocking with him. That's your guy. A lot of people, which is, I mean, I don't know, because we've all played multiple sports. We know within the locker room it's our guys and stuff like that. But I also recognize that something about rugby even though there's competition for position, I think and I hate using this word because it's so cliche, but the camaraderie that gets played in becomes so heavily important that you have the moment where it's like, yo, your dude got hurt, and it's not, oh man, maybe I got a shot.
Yeah.
It's yo, are you good? Did you end up trying to give him a call or anything like that? Hit him up whenever you found out about the back pain injury?
Well, he had been having this injury for a while, so we kind of all knew that, you know, he was fighting, like, if he could go or not.
Yeah.
And then when he announced, you know, I took time, you know, outside of rugby and out on the field and, like, talked to him and, like, you know, felt him out about that stuff and talked to him a lot. And, like you said, I mean, we're all boys, like, and we know, like, you know, you're in a professional environment. Every single one of us know that. Everybody who's out there, we all know we're in a professional environment. We all know that we're competing against each other. We all know that when HP camp comes, that only 12 are going to get selected, and there's 25 of us. Like, we know those things, but, you know, you can't have this, like, competitive side about, like, oh, I can only make myself better and not the team, because you'll never be good as a team, and you'll never get selected, to be honest, if you come in there thinking that you're the best and you're the only one who matters. Everybody's out there helping each other. You know, if somebody needs extra work, you know, there's 2 or 3 guys jumping in, like, being like, okay, what do you need help with? Like, let's do it. Like, and that's just kind of the environment that we live in.
That's beautiful, and that's what you're in. I mean, it's the best that you can be able to train in. So, you know, what was that conversation like when you did get the call? Because now it's ring. Hey, Cody, what was that? What was that conversation? What was that feeling?
So I had put off my one-on-one with Mike for a bit because I just wasn't feeling like talking to him about, like, the decisions. And
is it something that you guys do, like a closing kind of?
Yeah, it's kind of like because we got an email about the team selected. So, like, you know, you want to go talk to Mike and see, you know, what his thought process was. And, like, you know, I just didn't need it. Like, I had the closure I needed, like, to be honest. And, like, for me, like, I understood. Like, I was just like, I understand. Like, you know, I'm not the guy. These guys are, you know, like, I'm okay with that. And, like, I didn't feel like I needed that conversation. So I ended up, you know, he came, spotted me, and was like, after, like, a Tuesday or Wednesday practice from when we got back, he's like, hey, you going to talk to me or not? And I was like, yeah, let's talk. And so we, like, you know, had our little conversation and kind of explained, you know, his statistics about strategy and, you know, why he did things. And, you know, he kind of explained to me, he said, you know, with Ben coming out, it kind of changes our strategy a little bit, and we can bring in an extra player. And he said, and at the Olympics, our 13th player can play any game he wants. He's like, it's not a regular 13th player. You don't just come in when someone gets injured. Like, we roster, you know, 13 and 12 will play each game. And so you could be in and out of, you know, that 13th player, not me specifically, but that 13th player. So I had that one-on-one, and, you know, had this thought in the back of my mind, like, you know, what if I was that 13th guy, you know? You know, you're not just the first alternate, you know, you're a playable player, and, like, you're gonna be an Olympian. Like, the first alternate's not an Olympian, like, and neither of the 2 other alternates. So you're like, you know, that's one thing that's hanging there. And so the Wednesday morning came, and I kind of got a little bit of word about it. Like, you know, I hadn't talked to Mike, but he had to talk to other players on the team before me, and kind of, you know, explain to them why he had chosen me, which I didn't know at the time. And so I got a little bit of wind of it, but I didn't know it was, like, real. I didn't know it was real until he came and was like, hey, Cody. Yeah, he pulled me aside, Cody, come here. And he had 2 chairs and sat me down and was like, and put out his hand, and he just, like, put his hand out, and he's like, congratulations. You're going to the Olympics. And like, I shook his hand, and, like, at this point, I'm blown away, you know? Like, I'm like,
you know, there's sometimes that feeling where the words, you hear the words, but there's, like, a delayed hit of when it goes. Like, intellectually you feel it, but emotionally it waits a little bit.
Yeah, it was like I didn't understand it, to be honest. I was like, why? You know, I was like, whoa. Like, I just couldn't believe. It was like this, like, belief that wasn't going to be believed. Like, that it was really happening. And he started, like, talking to me, explaining his decision, and saying, you know, and, you know, I was like, of course it's, you know, how I am. I was like, thank you so much. He goes, you don't have to thank me. You earned this. And I was like, holy, you know, like, and those words kind of stuck with me. Like, you know, like, you know, I did earn this, and I do deserve to be here, and I deserve to be the person who's going on this team. And so and this is middle, like we're about to go into practice. Like we got 45 minutes until practice, you know?
So, oh man, how were you able to practice without distraction for at least that first 10, 15, 20 minutes? Like,
I went to my car, a little privacy, and called my wife, and I was like, nice. You know, finally, you know, let out the emotion. I was like crying. I was like, I made the team. And she's like in bed, like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to the Olympics. And I had to like quickly, like, you know, 5-10 minutes spend time with her about that. And then I called my friend. I called Ethan. Ethan was actually the first call I made because I was supposed to go do some coaching with him in Utah. We were going to go to the high school national sevens. I was going to coach out there. So I called him. I was like, hey, I can't come.
Bad news. Can't go. Good news. Because I'm going to the Olympics.
Yeah. So all these emotions, like, and then I'm like heading into practice, and I'm like my head is like, and I'm kind of feeling it right now. I'm like, my head is like dizzy. I'm like, I can't believe like you're trying not to be like this happy smile, like huge, because you know, like 4 guys just got told that they're not the ones coming into the team. So you know, and then you're not
trying to ruin anybody's rain on anybody's parade, but it's trying to contain that. Yeah, but you probably had that like big goofy smile on because it's just you can't help it. Like it's whenever you know something good when it's like purely in your heart and you don't even control your face at that point. You're just like
So that I don't even remember that whole training session at all. I was like my heart was beating like crazy. I just like. I couldn't even think. I wasn't thinking at all. And then after the training session, Mike brought the team and was like, you know, let everybody know that Brett had moved up into the squad and I had moved into 13th. And which was, I got a great reception. It was really cool. You know, guys patted me on the back, on the head, and like, congratulations and everything like that. And that's kind of the moment where I was like, okay, it's, you can celebrate. You can be happy now. Like you can, and I didn't have this week and a half off. Like, you know, I didn't have this week and a half like everybody else to like celebrate and just call everybody. And, you know, I'm into I had to go eat lunch, come back and train again. And so at this point, like the only person I call is my wife and Ethan, and like, you know, and I have to train until the end of the night so I can go like have real time to call my parents and my brother and like all my other friends and tell them about it. And so like I had to like turn from like all this excitement, I had to turn it into like, okay, we need to get the best out of all these practices. You know? Like, you need to be that supporting player and support the team. And it was hard. Like I'll tell you that 2-3 days after I got told was very hard to like focus and like hone in, like, because I had just all these emotions. That I was going to the Olympics, you know.
I mean, I can imagine. I mean, think about this from 18-year-old Cody, who was supposed to be a soccer player, a pro soccer player, shift out. All of a sudden, 28 years old, almost 10 years later, you're going to the Olympics. Going to the Olympics under rugby, a sport that you found in your last 2 months, basically, of your high school year. And it's just like this culmination of meeting these people who set up this series of motions that just the ultimate competition that you see your whole life.
Yeah, it was a crazy recognition or like realization that like all my dreams were coming true. And like I've been very vocal about these dreams. Like the first thing I told Peyton, my wife, when she came to one of my rugby matches, it was at Glendale, 8 inches of snow. Her and her dad, you know, I didn't know her dad at the time. And like, what are we doing here? And like, even back then I was like, I'm going to be on Team USA. Like, I'm going to play for Team USA and I'm going to go to the Olympics. And it was just like, there's like, holy, it's happening. Like, it is happening. Like what you said is coming true. Like, it still like feels like, I don't know sometimes I still don't know, like I am an Olympian, but I don't know the feeling. Like
Look, it's only been a couple weeks. Let it slowly delay. I'm sure you've already put the OLY on your social media. All right. Let that continue. Let that hit. There's more and more every day. You're just like, I am an Olympian. I am like, think about that. You, even though it's 11,000 people that's there, that's you are part of a fraternity, not just of Olympians that have ever been there in all time. You're part of a very small percentage of human history that gets to be there, but you get to be part of a small percentage of rugby people who got to be there, let alone within the first 2 bits of rugby people who ever got to be part of the Olympics. Like, you set the tone on it.
I'm forever thankful. Like, I'm so thankful and like humbled by all of this. Like, that's why I'm like so just relaxed now. It's like I worked so hard. I've been so stressed. Like, this last year and a half working towards that. I have been. You can ask my wife. She's like, "You've been a pain in the ass." Like, I have been so stressed. You know, I have just wanted it so badly. And like now that you got it, it's like, okay. You know, you've got it. Like, now you can go on to the other goals in your life, and you can be happy about where you're at, and kind of just focus on the, you know, how can you make yourself even better and even greater, leave more of a mark.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I have to imagine the experience in Tokyo, even though you guys were restrained within the village, had to have been both surreal and interesting, because, you know, you're in the presence of basketball players and all these other Olympians that have made such huge names for themselves, you know. Just kind of lastly, can you kind of touch on that a little bit? Like, what was that experience like, waiting in the hallway for before this opening ceremony walk?
Yeah, so I'll touch on the experiences a little bit. So the opening ceremony, because I was 13th, I actually didn't get to walk in, so I can't touch on that one. But I know that the boys had an amazing time, and like I got to watch it again. So and I've watched the Olympics opening ceremonies every single year it's ever been a part. So like that was amazing to be able to watch that. But being around all the athletes, like, you don't even recognize, like, to be honest, like I recognize like Yao Ming, you know, because the guy towers over everybody else. But like you're like beyond, you're like among greats. Like, you know, you're seeing like famous tennis players and like swimmers. And you kind of see them, but you're like, you don't really know. You know, they're not dressed up in their suits. You know, they're just in like their country's gear. You know, so you're among greatness. And it was like one of what Danny said to us at the beginning of it is like, you know, it's really easy to get caught up in this feeling of like you're surrounded by greatness and all these greats around you, and you can like fanboy, but remember that you are a part of them as well. So like, you guys are at this point, you're on equal grounds. You know, we're all Olympians together. And so to remember that, and that's kind of what we kind of felt while we were going through. And, you know, it was able to keep us, you know, calm and cool and collected. But, you know, every time we were with the boys, oh, you see who that was? You see who that was? Like, you see who that was? Like, oh, really? What? Where? And like, yeah, right there. And you're like, damn, okay. Yeah, they're here.
That's wild. Like, it's interesting because it's a point of being able to celebritize, but also be like, yo, you guys are mad human. Y'all are all you're superhuman. Like, you're very bigger than life on the screen and from a distance, but then you're there and you're like, yo, you guys also like really regular, but really talented regular.
Yeah, that's kind of what, like, the more and more I grow and the more like recognition I get, and like even on TikTok and like social media and through rugby, like the more established I become, it's like I'm still like the same person. Like, I'm still a person at the end of the day, and I still like, you know, I respond to every single, you know, Instagram inbox I ever get. You know, it was like, I'm gonna be real as I can. I'm gonna help people, you know, get to where they want and inspire people. And I'm the same person. I've just accomplished a little bit more and in the things that I wanted to accomplish in life than maybe others. But it's we're all human. We're all the same people. We all, you know, I still go home and play video games at night. You know,
let's go. Man, I love it. Cody, you know, I've genuinely enjoyed this. What's next for you over the rest of this the next year?
Yeah, so, you know, get to relax a little bit right now. So I'm going to be at Rugby Town not playing, which will be the first time in 8 years. 8 years I've played every single year, so I get to watch that. And then we're right back into the series starting in Vancouver in September. And so hopefully I get, you know, the 5 stops this fall under my belt. And then, you know, we have 8 next season in the spring. And then we're into the Rugby World Cup, so, which I haven't been to one. So I'm hoping and, you know, training towards being in the Rugby World Cup and trying to, you know, get on that top 3 on that podium for the Rugby World Cup too. You know?
Yeah, I love it. And where can people find you? You gotta always remember, where can people find you at?
Oh yeah, at Cody Melphy Rugby on Instagram and at Cody Melphy on TikTok. I'd love follows on both of those. And if you ever have a question or a message for me, just send it to my Instagram inbox and I'll get back to you, I promise.
Yo, Cody, bro, you the man. Thank you again so much. It's it's really great to be able to hear the stories and get it directly from the mouth of from a person experiencing it versus hearsay and everything around it. So thank you so much for even just taking the time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you giving me some time too, and just kind of getting a little bit more of the story out there, because we all have a story and we all would love to share our stories, and this is a great platform to do it. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Cody. Dude, that was awesome. We're definitely going to end up doing this again sometime in the future. But, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. And, of course, like I said earlier, please check out some of our other podcasts. Prior, we've had some amazing people. Olympians, Chetta Emba, Nia Tapper, Charity Williams, of course. We had Cody, as you guys got off. We've had actors in Adam Gray Hayward. We have coaches, Farrah Douglas, Matt Upton. We have Rugby World Cup captains in Blaine Scully and Tiffany Faye. We've gotten amazing people. We got great people who are changing the game, like Kyle and Tiana Granby with Roots, Derek Lipscomb of Roots, Rashad Lipford of North Carolina A&T. Just amazing. We got international. We got World Rugby people like Katie Sadlier, who actually, congratulations to her, became the chief executive officer for the Commonwealth Games. Have USA Rugby board members like Coma Gandhi Fishbin, presidents like Addo Milby. We have so many people, and we're continuing to grow because we want to show you what you can truly do when you are in part of this sport. So, guys, thank you so much. Again, please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share this out. And I want you to know, most importantly, though, of everything, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, and I hope you know that you're highly favored. Till next time, cheers.